Long, long ago, in 1754 BC, Hammurabi will publish his famous code of laws, with a clearly recognizable pattern of punishing crimes in an eye for an eye fashion. I mean, Law 196 was literally paying an eye for an eye. Execution sentences were common, 34 to be exact. And you will be mutilated for weird things, like taking out someone's tooth, making a surgical mistake as a physician, insulting a woman for no reason, or saying that hot weather was better than chill weather. But well, that last one is genuinely justified. And it was during the rule of Hammurabi that two remarkable citizens lived in the recently acquired Babylonian city of Ur. One of them was famous for being the Allfather to three of the major religions of the earth, and the other one is famous for the memes.
DNA of the soul.
Let's speak about the most important one first. Ea Nasir was responsible for the first ever customer complaint in history. He didn't write it, he received it, and he would have wiped his butt with it if it wasn't a clay tablet. But first, let me give you a little bit of context. Ur was a trading coastal city. During the Neo-Sumerian Empire of the 21st century, internal trade was allowed, but with a lot of state intervention. When the empire fell, the state of Larsa acquired Ur and removed the state intervention from the economy. This led, of course, to an increase in the average quality of life. It didn't last very long, because one day Hammurabi arrived and said, "All of this is mine," and trading came back to the way it was before. The Uranians, is that a real word? Well, now it is, who had already tasted the glory of the Larsan economy, decided to attack anything that even remotely looked like a Babylonian tax collector, making Babylonian merchants scared of walking through hostile territory to get the resources needed for making the most important alloy of the Bronze Age. Bronze. That didn't sound right. Where did they get these resources from? Well, most of the copper needed to make it came from the land of Tilmun, which is believed to have been where now is the modern island nation of Bahrain. Responsible for selling this copper to the Mesopotamian states were the Alik Tilmun, a guild of merchants. The Sumerian Ea Nasir was one of his members, who was the one who sold it from the city of Ur. The guy you're seeing on screen is not Ea Nasir, by the way, that's a figurine from Eshnuna, but the entirety of internet collectively agrees that that's him. But hey, he probably didn't look very different. Customer complaint in question came from a merchant called Nani, who had given him a monetary deposit.
When you came, you said to me, "I will give you fine quality copper ingots." You left then, but you did not do what you promised me. You put ingots which were not good before my messenger sits in and said, "If you want to take them, take them. If you don't, go away." What do you take me for? I have sent gentlemen like ourselves to collect the bag with my money deposited with you, but you send the messengers back to me empty-handed many times, and that through enemy territory. You treated me with contempt. You feel free to speak in such a way just because of that 1 mina of silver that I owe you, while I have given to the palace on your behalf 1,080 pounds of copper. How have you treated me for that favor? It is now up to you to give me my money back in full. I shall from now on select and take the ingots in my own yard, and I shall exercise against you my right of rejection, because you have treated me with contempt.
So not only did he sell back quality copper, but he also refused to give back the deposit. So it's understandable that Nasir is portrayed as such a villain. But allow me to be the devil's advocate for a minute. Maybe he wasn't.
Objection!
Nani did say he owed a mina of silver to Ea Nasir. And ladies and gentlemen, this legal case has a proper plot twist when you find out that a mina equals 1.2 pounds of silver, and that's enough silver to buy 240 pounds of copper. That is the weight of a person and a half in copper. I dare to say that's a bit more than what a messenger is capable of carrying. This makes you realize that the first criminal here was Nani himself, being the reason why Ea Nasir wasn't willing to give the deposit back. But about the quality of the copper itself, yes, it was horrible. This is actually just one of the many customer complaints found in the house that is believed to have been the home of the merchant. All of this seems like a funny meme until you realize that keeping a business when you have way too many one-star reviews is, yeah, a little bit hard. In his following years, he had to resort to selling used clothes to survive, and even had to sell half of his house to another family, so he probably passed away in poverty. Our other citizen of Ur was Abraham. Yes, that was the name he was given at birth, who according to the Bible was said to be from the city of Ur-Kashdim, meaning Ur of the Chaldees. According to many historical, Islamic, and Christian sources, it is referring to the Sumerian city of Ur. But it is definitely stated in Joshua that his family adored Mesopotamian deities, probably the Akkadian Ishtar, goddess of love and war, Marduk, god of the heavens, and Shamash of Larsa, god of the sun. He was not Sumerian. He descended from the Amorite city of Haran in the outsides of Jamhad, and his name, Abraham, is of Akkadian origin, which is the language that the Amorites used, which makes a lot of sense because they are more genetically related to the modern Semitic populations that the Sumerians were. And he received a calling from God, who asked him to move to Canaan, where he will prosper and father many nations, which is what his new name, Abraham, means. Now that you know all of this, allow me to tell you a fun fact. It was winter of 1913. The Austro-Hungarian Empire is a superpower that attracts all sorts of weirdos. There, in its capital, Vienna, lives Franz Joseph, the Kaiser, and also Franz Ferdinand, the soon-to-be Kaiser. Well, we all know that never happened. Also, Stalin, a socialist with internationalist Marxist ideas. Trotsky, another internationalist socialist. Adolf, you know who, an envious nationalist socialist. I wonder what will happen if I mix those last two words together, other than demonetizing this video. Also, what do you mean Sigmund Freud was there too? And even Joseph Tito was there. Yes, all of these guys lived in the same city at the same time. They probably visited the same cafe or bar. They probably watched Franz Joseph giving a speech, being just a few meters from each other. And of course, all of this makes me wonder, was the Ur of the 18th century an archaic equivalent to the Vienna of 1913? Did the really bad copper merchant and Abraham ever meet? Did they ever go to the same tavern, maybe watch a public mutilation together? Or did Ea Nasir ever sell some really bad oxidized copper to the guy who gives Abrahamic religions their name? There is a picture going around, like a meme of sorts, that suggests that they lived merely a street away from each other. But there is a problem with this picture. The one on top is genuinely the house of the merchant, the one where we found many tablets and copper lingots. But the one in the south was not Abraham's house, that was just a government building. If that wasn't enough, there is the fact that we don't really know if Abraham really lived in the 18th century BC. I mean, the mere fact of us assuming that he lived in that century is just a mathematical assumption using the date of the Exodus as a guide, which of course is based on the real existence of a historical pharaoh, which is never named in the Bible. And also, we don't have any archaeological or historical information about Abraham. Like, at all. We used to think that Ramses II was the pharaoh of the Exodus because the city Ramses is mentioned in the Old Testament. But remember that these books were written later on when the city changed its name. So the people who write it probably didn't know it had a different name before. It was called Avaris, which was the capital of the Hyksos dynasty of Egypt from 1650 to 1550 BC. And they were a mixed race that were partially Hebrew and Canaanite, and were likely the ones who accepted the Israelites in Egypt in the first place. So many historians think that the actual pharaoh of the Bible was Thutmose III in 1450 BC. And you might be wondering, where is the evidence of this? Well, here it is. In Exodus chapter 1, 7 to 10, it says that at some point a new ruler came to power in Egypt who did not know Joseph and enslaved the Hebrew, implying that it was with the 18th dynasty and the non-Hyksos pharaohs like Amos I that the Israelites' enslavement first started. Exodus 1:11 says that they were forced to build Ramses, which means that they rebuilt Avaris after it was sieged in 1550 BC. And Kings 6:1 says that it was after 480 years of being in Exodus from Egypt that King Solomon started building his temple, and this temple dates to 967 BC. 967 plus 480 equals 1447 BC. So yeah, it definitely wasn't Ramses. And also, the firstborn of this Thutmose passed away at early age, just like it happens in Exodus. Thutmose III, you horrible human being. I hope you're burning in hell. Where was I? Oh yeah, according to Exodus 12:40, there is a 430-year gap between Moses and Abraham. 1447 plus 430 equals 1873 BC, meaning that Abraham plausibly left Ur at least 60 years before Ea Nasir started scamming people with his mid-quality copper. Which is a bummer, but at least it's nice to know that they probably went to the same tavern or something like that, even if there were many decades in between. So yeah, it's been a pleasure, as always. Ciao!